The laughter hit Darius first, not the words. It rolled across the crowded engagement dinner in Bronzeville, Chicago, sharp as broken glass. While he stood near the buffet, holding a tray of lemon bars Monique had asked him to bring from her favorite bakery. She was glowing in a red dress, smiling like a woman who had never once needed saving. And when her cousin joked that Darius was so slow he'd apologize if somebody stole his car, Monique laughed the hardest. Then she kissed another man on the cheek, right in front of everybody, and said, "Darius trusts me too much." That's his problem. Nobody defended him. Nobody even looked sorry. Darius felt every eye in that room slide over him, measure him, reduce him. He wore his best Navy suit, the one he had bought after a year of overtime at the freight yard in Joliet, and suddenly it felt too tight in the chest. A few people chuckled into their drinks. One, Annie, shook her head like pity was all he deserved. Monique did not come to his side. She stayed in the center, where admiration lived, where attention was oxygen, where beauty could excuse cruelty if it smiled brightly enough. Darius set down the tray before his hands betrayed him. He did not argue. He did not storm out. He only learned something permanent. On the drive back to Naperville, Monique acted as if nothing had happened. She scrolled through her phone, laughed at messages she did not share, and asked him whether he had remembered to pick up her dry cleaning. The city lights slipped behind them and suburban silence took over, but the humiliation stayed in the car like a third passenger. Darius answered softly, because that was what everyone knew him for. Soft voice, steady hands, patient heart. They mistook patience for weakness. They mistook gentleness for ignorance. Monique even rested her head against the window and called him sweet in the same tone people use for pets and children. If you have ever watched a good-hearted person get laughed at just because they loved too deeply, stay with this story. And please subscribe. I truly need you here, more than these words can say, because stories like this breathe through people who still believe truth matters. Watch the other videos on this channel too, because they're all about what people hide behind perfect smiles. Darius had not yet decided what to do, but one thing had already changed forever that night. The man who drove Monique home was not the same man who had walked into that dinner carrying dessert and trust. Their house sat on a quiet street lined with maple trees and careful lawns, the kind of neighborhood where pain got hidden behind nice porch lights. From the outside, they looked admirable. Monique was a polished corporate event planner with a gift for rooms, faces, moods, and appearances. Darius managed overnight logistics for a regional shipping company, the kind of job nobody bragged about, but everybody depended on. He paid the mortgage on time. He fixed the sink. He remembered birthdays. Monique collected compliments like flowers. Darius collected responsibilities. People called her a queen and him lucky. Few noticed luck had been working harder than charm for years. The first sign had been small enough to deny. Monique began taking calls on the back patio after sunset. Then came work trips that produced no photos, no receipts, no stories that matched twice. She started sleeping in expensive perfume that did not belong to bedtime. She changed the password on her phone and called it healthy boundaries. When Darius once asked why a restaurant charge showed up in Milwaukee on a night, she said she was in Schaumburg. She kissed his forehead and said he was overworked. "Baby, you think too much," she whispered, sweet as honey over poison. For a while, he wondered whether she was right. But humiliation is clarifying. After Bronzeville, Darius stopped wondering and started noticing. He noticed how she angled her screen away from him, even while laughing at messages that lit her face from below. He noticed a second lipstick in her purse, a deeper shade she never wore around him. He noticed how one name, Terrence, kept drifting through her stories like smoke from another room. Terrence from a sponsor meeting. Terrence from a charity gala. Terrence who somehow knew her favorite wine and the exact week she would be traveling for work. Darius did not confront her. He began writing dates instead, quietly, in a spiral notebook kept inside a locked toolbox. That silence became his turning point. Monique expected tears, questions, accusations she could swat away and retell later as proof of his insecurity. Darius gave her none. He came home on time. He cooked salmon with garlic butter the way she liked. He folded towels. He asked about her day, and under all that calm, he gathered facts with the precision of a man rebuilding himself one truth at a time. The notebook filled with hotel receipts, screenshots, timestamps, and lies that contradicted themselves. The more certain he became, the less he shook. The less he shook, the more careless Monique grew. Confidence can make dishonest people sloppy. One rainy Thursday in late October, Darius found certainty by accident. Monique had left her tablet charging in the home office, and a message flashed across the screen while he was looking for printer paper. Last night was worth every risk. It was from Terrence. There was a heart after his name, small and childish and devastating. Darius stood still, so long the dryer cycle downstairs ended. He opened nothing else. He did not need to. Some truths do not arrive as explosions. They arrive like a final key turning cleanly in a lock you have been pressing against for months. After that, the door in his heart closed without noise. That night, Monique came home just after 11 wearing a cream coat damp at the shoulders from the rain. She kissed him on the cheek and complained about traffic on I-88. Darius smiled and reheated her pasta. She ate while describing fake co-workers with invented frustrations, and he watched the ease with which she lied. It was almost artful. What hurt him most was not that she had chosen another man. It was that she had turned his loyalty into a stage prop, something to stand on while performing innocence. When she went upstairs, Darius remained at the kitchen table, hands folded, and finally admitted the plain truth. Love was not what kept this marriage alive. If this story is reaching somewhere tender in you, subscribe and stay. I mean that with my whole chest. I truly need your support. And these stories only travel because thoughtful people carry them forward. Watch the other videos on this channel after this one because sometimes a stranger's story helps us name our own pain. Darius would never say that aloud, but he needed witnesses too. If not in person, then in spirit. The next morning, he called a lawyer in downtown Chicago before sunrise. By 7:15 a.m., he was parked outside the office, coffee untouched, grief already hardening into strategy. Her name was Denise Holloway, and she did not waste words. She wore silver glasses, spoke with quiet authority, and had the kind of office that made people tell the truth faster than they intended. Darius laid out the notebook, the screenshots, the financial statements, the mortgage records, and the evidence of Monique funneling household money into boutique hotels and secret gifts. Denise listened without interruption. When she finally spoke, her voice was almost kind. "You have more than enough to protect yourself," she said. "Now you need discipline." Darius nodded. Discipline, he thought, was all he had left. Denise helped him turn heartbreak into a legal map. Over the next 6 weeks, Darius became a student of restraint. He opened a new bank account in his own name. He copied every household record and secured digital backups. He documented the renovation payments he had funded, the down payment from his late mother's inheritance, and Monique's recent withdrawals tied to personal entertainment that had nothing to do with their marriage. He did not empty accounts recklessly. He did everything through counsel, everything traceable, everything lawful. Revenge, he was learning, did not have to scream to be devastating. Sometimes the deepest cut came from leaving someone with no lie strong enough to save the image they worshipped. Meanwhile, Monique flourished in the fantasy of being underestimated. She grew warmer, not colder, because she sensed no resistance. She even began posting smiling photos from charity events in Hyde Park and riverfront dinners downtown, captions full of gratitude and grace. In the comments, people call them goals. Under one picture, a woman wrote, "Darius adores you." Lucky girl. Monique liked the comment and replied with a white heart emoji. Darius stared at that tiny symbol for a long while after midnight. Not because it broke him, but because it showed him the shape of her self-deception. She wanted devotion without duty, marriage without honesty, appearance without cost. December came in gray sheets of sleet and hard wind. The holidays magnified everything. Monique decorated the house with velvet ribbons and gold ornaments while still slipping away to take vendor calls in the garage. She hosted a brunch for friends who praised her caramel glazed ham and asked Darius to refill mimosas like he was staff. One woman teased that he was the safest husband in Illinois, and the room laughed again. This time Darius smiled too. The smile frightened Monique for half a second, because there was no pleading in it, no confusion, no ache she could use. Then her confidence returned. She never understood silence when it was no longer surrender. The cruelest part of betrayal is how ordinary mornings continue. Darius still made coffee, still scraped frost off the windshield, still answered his supervisor's calls. But beneath the routine, a second life formed, one made of decisions. Denise filed what needed filing. A new apartment in Oak Park was secured in his name under a short-term lease. His closest cousin, Byron, helped move small things first. Documents, keepsakes, framed photos of Darius's mother, the jazz records Monique never valued. Piece by piece, Darius removed the parts of his soul from that house. Monique never noticed. She was too busy composing the image of a marriage already hollowed out. Then came the final insult, the one that made mercy impossible. On New Year's Eve, Monique hosted a black-tie countdown party in their home. Darius had wanted quiet, but she wanted spectacle. Near midnight, after enough champagne had turned people reckless, Terrence arrived. Not hidden, not subtle, openly, arrogantly, like a man already sampling another man's life. Monique introduced him as family friend, basically. Terrence shook Darius's hand and held it half a second too long, smiling with that polished confidence some men mistake for power. When the countdown ended, Monique hugged Terrence first. Darius saw it. So did 3 other people. Nobody said a word. After the guests left and confetti stuck to the hardwood floors like tiny insults, Darius stood in the kitchen and looked at the life he had built. Monique, tipsy and radiant from attention, asked why he was being so quiet. He almost laughed. Quiet had become the one language she never bothered to learn. Instead, he told her he was tired and went upstairs. In the dark, beside a woman who had turned deceit into routine, he did not cry. He simply counted the days. Denise had told him the documents would be ready by mid-January. Darius fell asleep that night, not with hope, but with timing. If you're still here, thank you. Truly, I need you to subscribe if you have not already, because these stories survive on your kindness and your attention. And when this one ends, please watch another video from the channel. Stay with us. There is something beautiful about people who sit through hard truths instead of running from them. Darius would have understood that. By the second week of January, every paper was signed on his side. Every record was organized. Every lock for his new place had been changed. All that remained was the day Monique would meet the consequences of her own certainty. He chose a Wednesday because Monique always worked late Wednesdays. She liked to say midweek was for networking dinners, but Darius now knew exactly what kind. He took the day off without telling her. Byron arrived at 8 with 2 movers and black coffee. They worked in quiet efficiency. Clothes disappeared first. Then shoes, books, his watch collection, his tools, his records, his mother's quilt, the lamp by his reading chair, the framed wedding portrait he had once cherished and now wrapped face down in a blanket. By noon, his side of the walk-in closet was bare. By 2, his dresser stood open and empty like a rib cage after loss. Darius cleaned before leaving. That mattered to him. He wiped the bathroom counter, stacked the spare keys she was entitled to keep, and left the mortgage statements, utility breakdowns, and legal packet arranged neatly on the dining table. On top of the folder sat a note written in the same careful handwriting he used for grocery lists and condolence cards. It was brief. I was never the fool. I was the man who loved you honestly while you practiced lying. The house is being addressed through counsel. Do not call me unless it is through attorneys. Under that, he added one final sentence. You mistook silence for weakness. That was your costliest mistake. By 6:30, he was in Oak Park, sitting on the floor of his new apartment because the couch had not yet been delivered. Snow pressed gently against the windows. For the first time in months, the quiet around him did not feel humiliating. It felt earned. His phone buzzed at 7:04, then 7:05, then 7 times in a row by 7:11. He let it ring. Texts followed like panic breaking through polished glass. What is this? Where are you? Why is your closet empty? Why are there papers here? Darius, answer me right now. He set the phone face down and exhaled. Some endings begin in stillness. Monique called Byron next, then Denise's office, then 2 mutual friends. By 9 o'clock, the version of events she had crafted so carefully for years began turning against her. Denise was efficient. She informed Monique, through formal language and attached documentation, that financial records showed misuse of shared funds and material deception. Monique's outrage hit a wall. Facts did not move forward. Worse, one of the mutual friends she phoned had been at the New Year's Eve party. Another had seen Terrence leave a hotel with her in December. Sympathy became distance. Distance became silence. For the first time, Monique discovered image was weakest when truth arrived organized. The next morning at her office in downtown Chicago, whispers reached her before her coffee cooled. Not because Darius had posted anything online. He had not. But because Terrence, cornered by his own fiancée after unrelated suspicions, had started saving himself first. Men like that always do. Within 48 hours, he had denied promises, minimized feelings, and framed Monique as a mistake. The cruelty of that abandonment stunned her more than losing Darius. She had never imagined being ordinary to the man she risked everything for. Yet there it was. No grand rescue, no public claim, no brave confession. Just a coward retreating from consequence. Monique drove to Oak Park on Saturday, unannounced, wild-eyed, beautiful in the ragged way pride looks after sleepless nights. Darius met her in the lobby and never invited her upstairs. That, more than anything, shattered her. She tried anger first, then blame, then tears. She said she had been confused, lonely, pressured, unappreciated. She reached for his arm, and he stepped back. Calmly, decisively. "You laughed at my love in public," he told her. "You trained people to think my devotion was stupidity. You don't get to call it confusion now." The words were quiet, but they stripped her of every script she had prepared on the drive there. She expected him to yell. A loud man would have been easier to survive. Instead, Darius gave her dignity she had not given him, and that mercy burned worse than contempt. He told her Denise would handle the division. He told her the house would likely need to be sold. He told her he was not interested in her explanations because explanations are not apologies and apologies are not repairs. Then he said the sentence that stayed with her longest. "The saddest part is not that you betrayed me. It's that you made honesty feel embarrassing." Monique covered her mouth as if physically struck. In a way, she finally had been. Weeks passed, and karma kept unfolding in ordinary, merciless ways. Monique lost Terrence, lost face at work, lost the house she had used as a backdrop for perfection, and lost the easy admiration of friends who no longer trusted her version of anything. People became polite around her, which is sometimes colder than cruelty. Her social media slowed, then went dark. Invitations thinned. Family members stopped using Darius as a punchline once legal papers and timelines surfaced. In church, in office halls, at Sunday brunch, one fact lingered around her name. She had laughed at a faithful man and called that power. Nobody found it elegant anymore. Darius did not become instantly happy. That would be a lie, and this story is not built from lies. He grieved in honest ways. He sat with old records and let John Coltrane fill the apartment. He visited his mother's grave in Joliet and told her he had finally chosen himself. He went to therapy. He slept badly, then better. He learned how peace sounds when it no longer has to compete with disrespect. And slowly, people who had overlooked him began seeing him clearly. Not as a fool, not as a victim, but as a man whose restraint had preserved his soul when rage might have ruined it. Months later, on a bright spring afternoon by Lake Michigan, Darius ran into one of Monique's cousins, the same one who had joked about him being too slow to notice theft. The man looked embarrassed before he even spoke. He apologized awkwardly, hands in pockets, eyes on the pavement. Darius accepted with a nod, nothing more. He did not need revenge from everyone. Life had already corrected the room. As he walked away, the wind off the lake carried a gentleness he had not felt in years. Some people think karma is thunder. Often it is quieter. It is the long ache of realizing the person you mocked was the one true thing you had. So here's the lesson, and it matters. Never confuse tenderness with weakness. Never turn someone's loyalty into entertainment for a crowd. And never believe that public charm can outrun private character forever. What happened to Monique was brutal, yes, but not because anyone harmed her. It was brutal because truth removed every costume at once and left her standing in the cold reality of what she had chosen. Darius did not destroy her. He simply stopped protecting her from the consequences of herself. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe. I truly appreciate you. And try to check out the other videos on this channel. Somebody else may need them too.